Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders Without podcast. They have another wonderful, amazing leader with a heart. I guess for you, my good friend Kevin McNee from British Colombia. We have quite a few things in common because we both worked in the oil fields in Western Canada. I worked there back in between 2012 2014. I was working as an NDT, non-destructive testing, in layman's term, a welder's inspector. So he's been working. He was working there. He just quit his job last year. He was the GM of an oil and gas company. We're gonna talk about that after. Kevin is an amazing guy because he's doing a lot of amazing things out there. He has a tremendously rich and varied background. He was a professional golf, pro golf, as well as he ran a half marathon, half Ironman. And I was on a mission to help men find the warrior within. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. So it's going to be a good one. Kevin, brother, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Payman. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is my first ever podcast, so it's exciting.
Wow.
And yeah,
it's amazing.
I'm excited.
All right. So before we start, just as I told you when we were before going live, last week, the theme of this podcast is I'd like to have a look under the hood to see what's in your heart, to have a heart-to-heart conversation, and so name Leaders with a Heart, because business happens, when you connect with someone as a person. Sure, when you're looking for a professional, every person that you look at, they have all the credentials and qualification, but ultimately what's going to make you decide on which person to choose is going to be if you can connect as a person. So that's what we're going to do to get to see who's Kevin as a person, as a human being. So first of all, for people that don't know you, tell us, who's Kevin as a person, as a human being?
Well, you mentioned it too, and my mission is to help men find the warrior within, and that's a mission of mine, and that's what I've done within myself. And I was a people pleaser my whole life, the nice guy, being everybody's friend. So I thought, right? I was the leader, the hockey coach, I worked hard for everyone to make sure that I was validated, right? I actually got a lot of the things, most that I asked for. Like, I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be a decision maker. I wanted to be, a professional, and I was a high achiever, but I was giving myself away because of that, and not honoring myself and making sure that everyone else was comfortable at the discomfort of myself, right?
Well, what point did you decide enough? I have to change. I have to take care of myself first.
Well, that's this one here,
Sorry. Was that a specific event, or was it something that was building up over time that made you enough of that? F that. I need to look after myself first and foremost.
Yeah, 100%. And that was, it was built up over time. Kind of one of those things where, I knew that there was things going on in my life, whether, it was most of the time, it was like conflict avoidance, confrontation avoidance, where, something would come up and I'd all of a sudden, freeze and be like, oh man, this hurts, or this, I'm afraid. So I would do everything to keep the peace and bury my own thoughts and words, because I don't want to have a conflict.
Are you a Libra?
Am I a Libra? No, I'm a Taurus.
I'm a Libra. What you described, that's something that I was struggling with the longest of time. I'm finally starting to get over that. So that's something very common with Libras,
Interesting, because my ex-wife is a Libra. And,
oh, okay.
we're definitely charged
Awesome.
each other. That's for sure. So yeah, like throughout that, that was a response for me. So through my relationships, with my dad, with my parents, with my bosses, and then in my personal relationships, like with my wife, where anytime that I would say something or wanted to speak my piece, I would bite my tongue because I didn't want to start a fight, because I knew how hard that was going to be. And then it wouldn't end without, her getting the last word. And that was where I would like hold on to my words. And this was my reaction. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night with my fists clenched and, curled up in a fetal position, going like, and like you asked about this pivotal moment. And I remember one time when I was laying in my bed, and we lost touch with each other over the years. We were together for 12 years, and I'll touch like more into that as well. But near the end, I woke up I was lying in bed and curled in this fetal position. And, I had asked her if she wanted to be intimate, and she said no. She'd rather watch a show instead, and she was tired, and that was kind of the resentment that I held. So I curled up in my ball and held on to it, and I'm like, how is this my life? How why am I made to feel so small, and being, I'm living this small life in a small marriage in a small town, with a job that I'm unhappy with, and I'm like, this can't
Yeah.
be it. And that was kind of the breaking point, to where I started to I started my journey, right? you know the the next thing with that, if I can continue, is, I can remember a time not too long after that, I was jumping on the trampoline with my two kids. And after, like, I was like 2.5 minutes, I was jumping on the trampoline, and I'm like, oh, man, I can't even, like, I can't breathe. Like, what the hell, right? I was always prided myself in being, like, hockey player,
It,
baseball player,
yeah.
golfer. Like, I was active, an athlete, a good athlete, but I lost myself. I'd been, closet smoking for 16 years,
Wow.
right? Um, yeah, I struggled with that, and I was the heaviest that I'd ever been, at like 243 pounds, and I was like, man, I need to make some changes in my life.
Sure. We're going to talk about that. That's perfect. We're going to talk about in a few moments, but let's get back to getting to know you as a person. Tell us now, Kevin, what makes you happy as a person?
Mm, you know, True and honest connection, and
Mhm.
that's with myself first, and it took a while for me to understand that. Like, I was being that people pleaser, and keeping the outside image of everything being perfect. That became my identity.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
who I was, and I didn't. When it got down to it, I got thinking one time, going, man, if I was stuck in a ditch somewhere, who would actually come? Right?
Yeah.
Who would I phone, and who would actually come? And I couldn't think of anybody. And that
Yeah.
really, it scared the shit out of me a
Sure.
lot. And I was like, you know what? Who are my people, and who am I, like you asked? So I just started to, have real conversations with people, and being like, you know what, this is me. This is who I am. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm struggling with. This is what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And that was scary, but man, what a reward to hear that other people were feeling the same way on similar levels, right? And that I
Sure.
wasn't alone.
Absolutely. Now, what makes you smile?
um Waking up and loving myself every day, right? And I didn't have that for a long time. I was overweight as a kid, and was teased, and struggled with that my whole life. And I didn't have love for myself, and to look at myself in the mirror was always just like, picking myself apart. Or you make a mistake, and you're like, you know what, everyone's right, you're not good enough, right? You're not going to be successful, so you better just keep trying to prove yourself. But now, waking up and looking myself in the mirror and going, you know what, I actually do love you, every part of you, and even the mistakes and the struggles. And it's not an easy place to get to, and it took a lot of healing work to get through that.
Now, what makes your heart sing? What makes you come alive?
mm, you know a perfect example is exactly what we're doing, Payman. Is just like having real conversations with people about who we really are, what we want. Like, what is your dream?
Mhm.
What is some, like, who are you? Like, what I got to go on a solo journey here by myself for the first time ever. I went out into the woods last year,
Wow.
and took only my journal book. I didn't listen to any music. I didn't listen to anything. I didn't even turn my phone on. I took my journal book, and wrote letters to people that had hurt me in the past. Wrote letters to myself. Wrote letters to my partner, my parents, everybody, saying everything that I had left unsaid. And it was in that moment that I realized, I'm like, you know what? everything around me is truly means nothing except for me.
Totally.
There's me, my kids, the people that are most important in my life, and those are the ones that are giving and receiving on an equal level. But at the core of it, I'm like, I didn't need anything except me and my breath, right?
Exactly. One thing I also noticed, I was exactly like you, always trying to be a people pleaser, do everything people wanted me to do. But then I noticed, I realized that, hey, some people might think of it as being selfish, but I don't think it's selfish. The most important person in your life, it's you. Because if you're not
Mm,
at your best, you're not going to be productive. You're not going to be able to serve and help other people around you. So if you want to be able to help others, help yourself first. That's why on the planes, before taking off, they tell you put your mask on first before putting even your child's one. Because if you can't help yourself, you're not going to be any use, any help for anyone else.
totally.
So when
And
you focus on you, it's not being selfish, actually being very generous to others, because the better person you can become, the greater your impact will be.
100%, and that's a perfect example of, I feel like society has taught us that we have to look out for everybody else first. And it's, if there's such thing as right and wrong, which I don't believe there is, but it's backwards. We need to look, if we aren't looking after ourselves, if you're not healthy and taking care of yourself, how are you supposed to take care of anyone else?
Thank
It's
you.
impossible,
Thank
right?
you.
I've felt that, and like when you lose your health, there's really nothing else
Oh,
left,
I
right?
agree. I realized that, I was never religious, but I always believed in God. And last year I've had a spiritual awakening, and that has allowed me to look at things differently. So because of that, now I focus on impact. I don't focus on money or anything. And as I found out that, and I learned through that, hey, we need to focus. I mean, just like I said earlier, you're the most special person in this world, because for you to have any impact, you have to be able to help yourself. One perfect example of that, just like you said, everybody comes before you. When you get your paycheck, the government takes its cut. If you pay your bills, and whatever is left for you, it's for you. But most of us don't do anything with that. It should be the other way around. Whatever you get, whatever way you're getting paid, allocate some money first for yourself, for your investment, business, whatever. Then look at other people, because just like I said earlier, if you're not in a position to help yourself first, if you're not in a strong position yourself, you're not going to be able to help anyone else. And that applies to
100%.
every aspect of your life, your health, your business, everything. And just like you mentioned, health, for me, as a result of this spiritual awakening, I understood that, you know, what really matters. And what really matters is, first, the three most important things in our lives: our health, our time, and relationships. Everything else
Mm,
is secondary. Once you lose any of that, you can be the richest man in the world. It's going to leave you empty inside.
100%. It's that's a few of those points, like a spiritual awakening, and I have one of
Oh,
my
yeah.
own as well. But like you touched on that last part, and that's one of the biggest thing that I find with the men that I work with and the
Mm-hmm.
ones that I'm reaching to, because yeah, I had everything that I asked for. I wanted to
Yeah.
be the decision maker, the boss,
Yeah.
have a piece of the pie, the nice big house, the $100,000 truck, the money in the bank, going on the trips, like the family, the kids, like all of that stuff. I'm like, that's supposed to mean that I'm
Check,
successful and
check,
make
check.
me
Yeah.
happy,
Yeah.
right? Check the box. Hey, you know what? I got everything, but my heart is empty and I feel terrible.
Yeah.
So what are we doing that for, right?
Totally. Totally. Now tell us, what on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
Mm, you know, one thing that I see is there's so much anger and hurt people in the world, and it's really hard to watch them hurt, when realistically they're trying to find outside sources. And I was one of those ones too, distracting myself with everything else, including when I started to get healthy. I used that as a crutch and just like, started running and running and running and running and running away from my problems. But for some people it's alcohol or drugs or sex or work. There's such thing as being a workaholic, and it's no different than being an alcoholic. It's just a more accepted by society. So that's what I see is that, and people not wanting to help themselves. And I think that's one of the things where I've struggled with that in even up to recently, like with with my family and some of the people closest with me, but also seeing like that others just not taking responsibility for their part, and doing the work to go to it. And that kind of leads me into one thing that I learned here recently is you have to love people for where they're at, not where you
Totally.
want them to be.
Totally.
And once I realized that, that was powerful.
Because we're all on our own different paths or different journeys. Some of us can be 1 or 2 steps ahead of us. Some of them can be a couple of steps behind us. We're all eventually going to get there. Some faster, some a little bit after, but we're all going to get there. So let them get there at their own pace. There's no need for us to try to push someone, speed them up or whatever, or give up on them, because no, just let them be on their own path,
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? One more point that I wanted to touch on too is, those that are trying to keep me small, that
Exactly.
is that's one that I really have, like, if I was to think of something that you know charges me, trying to keep me small, and dim my light, so to speak, right? I want to help, and I will help anyone, and I will listen to their story, and be there and support them, and I'm a pretty good teammate, right? But if you try and hold me back, well, that's not going to end well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what would you say is your personal superpower?
Mm. I would say my personal superpower is the ability to hold space.
Mm.
You know, I was told for a long time ago that by people in my life, they're like, you know what, I don't know what it is about you, but there's something about you that attracts people, and people want to be around you. And I never really understood it. I was always the nice guy, the people pleaser, but I like to treat people with respect, and that hasn't changed. Just because I've learned how to set boundaries, and start looking after me as number one. The kindness and the respect and the love for others hasn't changed. But now, being able to listen and listen to hear and listen to hold space when people need it the most, I feel like that's a superpower of mine.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah. Now, you like traveling, right?
I love traveling, if is when we're allowed to.
Yeah. So, what was your very first trip that you remember?
you know, um, compared to you, or compared to my partner Kelly, I haven't really traveled a whole bunch, but I've traveled a lot in Canada and in my own country. And one of the trips that actually just comes to mind now that I'm thinking about it is in southern BC. They had a Flintstones.
Oh, wow.
Everyone, so many people remember the Flintstones from the past, but they had like a Flintstone land down in
Wow.
southern BC, and I can remember going and getting to drive the little cars on the racetrack and seeing Fred and Barney and all the characters and stuff like that, and then going to this place called Old McDonald's Farm, where you could go fishing on the farm and see all the animals and stuff like that. So it's one of
Amazing.
my first travel memories, and it's one that's still close to home.
Awesome. Amazing. Now, let me take you on a different type of a trip down memory line. I want you
Mm.
to go back to when you're a young boy growing up. When we're young kids, people around us, parents, teachers, relatives, friends ask us, Kevin, what do you want to become when you grow up? What was your
Mm.
answer as a young boy?
you know, um, I think as a young boy who played sports, I was like, man, I want to make the NHL. I want to be a
Oh,
hockey
yeah.
player. I want to be a baseball player. I want to be, that I wanted to be like in sports, right? Um, my dad was a volunteer firefighter, and I always like admired that. So I was like, once I kind of got a little bit older, where I realized that the NHL or professional sports like that was kind of like fading away. Being a firefighter was always something that hit home for me, right? And then yeah, that's I'd say those ones there are ones that I can remember for sure.
That's amazing. Now, let's stay when you were a young boy. What was your favorite subject in school?
As a young boy, I always loved art, and I was really good at drawing pictures, and I loved doing it. I remember I got invited to a art program, um, and yeah, it was for kids that were really good, and I got to go and see just how amazing some artists are as even as young kids. Like we were like 10, 11 years old, and watching
Oh
what
yeah.
some of those kids can do was it was unbelievable. And art's always been something for me, and you know that's yeah, drawing specifically, and then into painting, but now music as well.
Do you still draw from time to time?
You know what? Not as much. I'll draw some pictures for the kids if they ask me to draw them something to color, and they're 10 and 13, so they're kind of growing out of that now. But yeah, I was always proud that I could like draw a horse or a unicorn or a rainbow, something like that that they were pretty proud of.
Yeah. Now, on the other side, what was the one class you could not stand in school? The one subject.
you know, I would say it's funny. Like the first one that comes to me is metalwork.
Oh,
I
really?
just,
Wow.
I never, I never really felt connected to it. Like working with it was hot, and I was like, yeah, I was just like, I don't know. The thing about metalwork, I was like, oh, I don't want to get cut, or I don't want to. It was more fear based around it. Yeah.
Where did you go to school? Because I did I grew up in France, but I did my high school in Toronto, and they were not teaching us anything like that.
Mm. That was in eighth grade. I'd have
Wow.
been like, you know, uh, 13 years old, and we did woodwork, metalwork. I think it was
Wow.
woodwork, metalwork, and sewing. So
That's
I
amazing.
actually enjoyed sewing better than metalwork. So I don't know if that's manly or not.
Was it in BC, in Alberta, or?
Yeah, I was in BC. Yeah, I've
Oh
lived in
wow.
BC most of my life. I lived in Alberta when I went to college.
Oh wow. Okay, because I'm telling you, man, they was not teaching us anything like that. At least in Toronto. I don't know about the rest of the country, but in Toronto, no. I even heard some people that when they were back in school in other countries, they were even teaching them, how to cook.
Yeah,
That's
actually, I was
amazing.
just going to say there was home ec was that as well. So you learn how to cook as well. So it was like each of the four terms you tried something different, and then I ended up going on with woodworking. I really enjoyed designing my own stuff. I took drafting all the way till till I graduated, and continued that art. I took art right till grade 12 as well.
I wish they would bringing back those actually useful life skills back into school as opposed to teaching them all the crap they're teaching now to kids. Because when I
Yeah.
look at the curriculum, I'm glad I don't have kids right now. And when I get blessed to have kids, I don't think I'll put them to the school system here in Canada because I don't want them to go through that crap here.
It's 11:11 here where I'm at, so that's a sign for me that this is something. So yeah, and I believe that as well. My kids, I'm super open with them. Kelly and I talk to them a lot about what their dreams are, how to
Good.
achieve them. We're here to do the work and have the real conversations, and let's live our dreams. And in school, again, it's designed to keep you small and be inside of a box, and it's not fair. It's just not, because it's not how humans are designed.
At least I would venture to say in smaller cities, especially out west, it's a lot better than in Toronto and the big cities because here it's completely on the left side. They teach you everything, left on the left, and
Mm.
you know, and I don't think that's the right thing to do with kids. At least you being in the nature, you being a manly man, and all that. That's very important for children, especially to have strong father figure, and that's what a lot of kids are lacking these days. Especially in the big
Totally.
cities.
100%. And like that, something that comes as an example for me is like like having those conversations, taking them out in nature, teaching them how to ground
Yes,
themselves, connecting with like you talked about your spiritual journey, and connecting with your dreams and your emotions, and doing the work and showing up for yourselves. Like I actually trained my kids yesterday morning and this morning, got them up at 6:30 in the morning and trained them before school, because they said that they want to be stronger, they want to be faster, they want to be better for themselves. And my son wants to go to the next level in his sport. So I'm like, this is how you do it, pal. And I'm here for you and I'm your teammate. So I'm going to hold you accountable.
Exactly. Especially for boys, teach them that it's okay to be a boy, to embrace their masculinity, not try to repress it as it's being taught in school, especially in Toronto, that everything to do with masculinity is bad, bad, bad. That's something that's really makes me upset beyond belief, because we brought here, we all have, let's not divide ourselves. Instead, let's unite ourselves. We come with complementary skills, put them together and work as a team, and not me against you. It's
Yeah.
okay to be a boy, to be a man. It's okay to be a girl and be, feminine. It's okay. That's what, at least in my opinion, but whatever.
No, and you know what, Payman, like you're hitting it on the head, right? Like it's okay to be masculine,
Absolutely. It's
but
not
it's
just okay.
also
It's
okay to,
welcomed. It's welcome.
yeah,
It's needed.
it's that's right. And it's okay to be feminine as a man.
Absolutely.
And it's okay
Absolutely.
to be masculine as a woman. But it's like
Absolutely.
there's just so many
Don't try to put
generalizations.
everything in one box. Yeah.
Yeah, just because you're a masculine woman doesn't mean that you have like your head shaved and you're can bench press 250 pounds. That's not it. It just
Yeah.
means you're strong.
Yeah.
You're a leader. You want to work, and you want more out of your life. Like those are masculine traits. So that's where I think it gets convoluted, what
Absolutely.
masculine and feminine truly means. And I feel like I didn't know what that meant. Mine was the toxic masculinity. Like, you know what? Show up, go to work, don't talk about your feelings. Boys don't cry. Just, if you're feeling bad or if you're sick, you get up and you go to work anyways. Just suck it up,
And as they
right?
say, just do the right thing and be a man. I hate it when I hear
Yeah, be a
that too.
man. What does that even mean?
Exactly. Because on the one side, we're told masculinity is toxic, and then we're told be a man. So that confused the crap out of boys. So
Mhm.
what does
Well,
that
and
mean?
yeah, 100%. And to believe that other men don't have feelings or aren't struggling with the same feelings that you are. So that's why you repress them, and that we're taught that. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
it's no wonder that there's so much struggle and pain and
Totally.
suicide and
Oh,
all of the,
dude.
alcohol problems and drug problems and divorce and, infidelity, like all of that stuff. It comes out somewhere.
It's all because of this confusion that they, they brought in. Anyways, that's a completely different topic.
Yeah, man. that's
I don't
a
want to
that's a
get into
long story.
slippery slope. So let's get back into. So that's all right. That's amazing. Tell us, what was your very first job?
I started work. I told my kids this too. I actually started working mowing lawns when I was like 12 years old.
Oh wow.
So, I'm 42 now. So I did the math and I'm like, man, I've been working for like 29, 30 years. Right. And when I said that, I was just like, oh man, that was, I'm tired. Right. It's been a long
Yeah.
time, but I would say my first real job, I worked at a grocery store stocking shelves. And I loved it. I could I could work at the grocery store. I really enjoyed, the guys that I was working with. There were some older guys there that took me under their wing. They nicknamed me Kevin Costner and just started calling me Costner. And yeah, it was just something I had to move when I was 16, going into my grade 12 year, my last year of high school. I had to move cities. And the hardest part for me was leaving my job because I love that job and the people so much. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's one thing that comes through
Amazing.
for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's important because the people you work with can make or break the entire environment, entire experience. Just like you said,
Yeah.
just stacking shelves. Some people can look at this as horrible, but if the right environment, the right people, it's going to be a kind of job that you actually in the morning you're looking forward to, as opposed to dreading to drive to your shiny office in the corporate wearing tie and suit that you hate. You know,
Mm, totally, 100%.
awesome. Now that's a good segue.
Mm.
I want you to talk to us about your path from the moment you left school to now. How would you describe it? Would you say as soon as you get into one lane, it was pretty much straightforward, or was it turns and twists with roller coasters?
Well, that's a good question, and for me, that it's like constant transition.
Mhm.
It's been, I struggled to decide what I wanted to do in school, and my dad actually brought up, they're like, hey, this school in Edmonton has has a golf program. And I was like, well,
Wow.
sounds all right. It was management. It was a management program. So it was a business management diploma. And then you did a third year around managing and building a business at the golf course, working at the golf course, running a shop and stuff like that. So I was like, well, okay, that's good. I like golf, and I'll see if I can get in. So I had to apply to get in, and I got in, and then I became one of the youngest pros in Canada at 19 years old.
Wow.
And so that was kind of my first thing, and that was something that I was really proud of. And then yeah, I did that for 8 years, and worked all over northern BC and then southern BC as well, and played well, and represented BC at the Canadian Assistance Championship in Niagara Falls one year, and it was very rewarding that way. Met movie stars, Harrison Ford and Robert Redford came and played golf, and hockey players, and stuff like that. So that was really cool to do that, but I was making no money. And society says at 26 years old, I guess this is how I took it, you need to get a real job. You
Yeah.
need to start making more money, because I was only making like $2,000 a month. And you need to get a real job, and you need to have a family. And if you're going to be successful and happy in your life, this is what you need to do. So that's what I did. And that's when I went into the oil patch.
So what took you to there? Was it a friend, family that were there and you just uh, told you to
Yeah.
get
So
there?
when I had worked at the golf course in Fort St. John in northern BC, it's an oil and gas town. And I grew up there. Since I was like 18, 19 till I was 23. So that's where I learned what it was to be like a man, masculine, how to treat people, how to gain respect, how to earn respect. And a lot of those guys were my father figures, right? I learned a lot from them of who I was, and how I treated people. And that was powerful. So I had some really good connections. So when I decided that I was going to leave, I had got offered a position to come back for a company from one of the guys that I knew there, who was a special friend of mine that just passed away like a year ago tomorrow, actually. That one hits actually when I think about him. Yeah.
That's a great way to get into that. Yeah. So what was the very first job you had in the oil patch? You remember?
Yeah, the guy's name was Bobby Brown, and he was a mentor for me, and I loved him a lot. He offered me a position running a pressure truck, and that's
Okay.
going to test the blowout prevention system on a drilling rig. So I go from working at the golf course, wearing all nice clothes all the time, to working on the drilling rig where,
All muddy
not
and
the
all
most
that.
friendly guys. Like they definitely tell you what they think of you, especially if you're not, meeting their needs right exactly when they want it. So that was powerful. And, I learned that and did that for the winter. And, the very first month that I was running the truck on my own, I made over $20,000 in 1 month. And I was
Oh,
like, man, that's more than I made at the golf course in 7 months.
oh yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So that was my first job in the oil patch. And, I busted my ass, and just kind of like that people pleaser mentality. I'm going to prove myself and that I'm a hard worker, so that you'll give me that validation and the love that I needed. And I got it, because, within a couple months they're like, hey, we'd like you to come into the office and do dispatch and sales for us. So
Wow.
that's kind of like the next transition as well.
That's amazing. Now, looking back at your golf journey, what would you say was the number one lesson you learned from that?
Mm. That one there, I was surprised at how many people brought their unhappiness and misery to the golf course. And I was like, man, they complain about the smallest things that mean nothing. I'm like, we're here playing a game out in nature, in one of the most beautiful places you can be.
Oh yeah.
And all you're concerned about is the other people in front of you, or that's taking too slow, or the weather, or the sprinklers came on, or the mowers are too loud, like all of that stuff. I was like, man, this is supposed to be a game. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be connected with the people that you're playing with. But it was all about, complaining. And that was probably the biggest lesson was, when I go back to the golf course and I play, I'm going to be the best partner that I can be. And that's like enjoy myself, not complain, support my other players, as well as support the golf course and the clubhouse that I'm supporting.
Yeah, for sure. Wow.
Mm.
Did you had ever any time in your life, I mean, before getting in, when you were in school, consider getting into the corporate world? Or was it straight from the beginning? No, there was another option straight going into uh, the blue collar type of work.
I guess for me, you asked me about dreams a while ago too. And one of the things is I always just considered what was the next option available or the next best thing, or what others thought that I should do. That was the next spot for me. Instead of thinking like, hey, I'd really like to do this, or maybe I'd like to get into the corporate world, or maybe I'd like to go another direction. It was like, this is available to me next. It's a good opportunity, and others, are saying that this is a good opportunity. So I'm going to just kind of lean into that one and go that direction. That was more so.
That's awesome. For me, I did 10-year corporate and then I started my own business in Old Patch. But I was talking, I still remember one scene. Sometimes I had this flashbacks. One day I was working at a major bank here in Toronto, and I was just, on the way home from work. I was just passing by this bus stop and I saw this huge, advertising board. I was saying, jobs in Alberta, call. I took the number. At the time, there was no smartphone. It was just like the flip flops. I took a picture and I wrote down the number. I wanted to call it because I was curious, but I never did. That was back in 2004, 2005. Now I wonder what if would have happened if I had gotten the patch back in those days. By then, I would have had a completely different life story. But I guess no one we'll never know. But some moments you see that, hey, that little thing. If I had just called that number, maybe my life would have taken a completely different turn. Do you
Mhm.
have those moments as well, that something that happened, if you did something, a call or whatever, your life would have been completely different?
You know, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I can think of moments in
Mhm.
my career in the oil patch, especially, um, where I saw other people doing, like, traveling, or taking time for themselves, taking time for their families, doing the things that they wanted to do, like buying a new boat and go and spend time. So like I'd phone them to come to work and they'd be like, no, I'm actually going camping, or I'm going traveling, or I'm spending time with my family. And I'd get, that I would be angry and resentful, because I'm like, who are they to say no to me when I'm trying to get them to come to work? But realistically, it was me that I was mad at, because I didn't know how to say no. I didn't. One of the things that I learned in the oil and gas industry was, you know what? You never know when your next job's going to come from. So don't ever say no. And even if you can't do it, or if your books are so filled that you are going to be unable to do it, say yes anyways, and we'll figure it out. So that's something there too. Like, yeah, if I would have said no, and did the things that were right in my heart at the time, maybe that would have been a different direction as well.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Now let's get back to what you just touched on in the beginning, that you were, as a result of you being always, a pleaser and all that, especially in your relationship, that you couldn't take it. I want you to tell us, there's a saying that says, change your story, change your life. And by story, I mean what we keep on telling ourselves in your head on a daily basis. So at that moment, what did you do? What did you do to change your story, to change your life? Did you do it through the help of friends, family, mentors, books, videos? So I want you to tell us, what did you do? How did you do to change your story, to change your life, and just take the courage, whatever you needed to do, to say, stop that, enough of that, f that. I'm so much more. I'm worth much more. So what did you do to change your story, to change your life?
Yeah, well, it definitely wasn't from friends and family, that's for sure. It was,
Mhm.
I didn't know how to reach out, right? I didn't know that there was an option to do that. I didn't even know how to talk about myself or my feelings. So in 2012, it was, I would say, so like, to shorten up the answer a little bit, it was through mentors, and
Mhm.
and I went and saw an energy healer in 2012 because I didn't believe in anything. I didn't believe in God, Jesus, the Bible, reincarnation, afterlife, many other, other lives, past lives. I didn't believe in any of that. And I was like, just going through the motions, going to work every day, drinking a lot, smoking cigarettes, partying, golfing. Like, yeah, it was just like on repeat, right? But just no meaning. So I went and saw this energy healer that my wife was seeing at the time. And I was asking all the questions and she was like, well, why don't you just go? So I went, and within like the first 2 minutes there, my life changed. You know, my ex and I, we lost the son at 5 months. He was stillborn at
Sorry
five
to hear
months.
that.
She had to,
Wow.
yeah, deliver him, and it was like 10 hours of physical pain, but mental and emotional on everyone. And that was the hardest day. But this energy healer, she says to me, she goes, "Your son's here, and he loves you." And I'm like,
Wow.
oh man. And she didn't know anything about that. And
Wow.
I was like, man, there's something different about this. And she said to me, she's like, Kevin, there's more in you, and I see you doing more, and maybe writing books and leading on stage, and helping people. And I was like, oh man, I've always felt that. And she just said, if you're going to take anything from this, start noticing the signs. She said, they're just about smacking you in the face, but start noticing the signs. And I literally, like, I got goosebumps thinking about it, but I floated out of there. Like, it was the most amazing experience of my life. And that was kind of the start of it. Right. And just started to notice more. And from that moment on, and it may sound strange, but I just wanted to be better. I wanted
Yeah.
to continue to be better. And that included just like, I'd pick up like a coffee cup off the ground and put it in the garbage. Put an extra shopping cart away at the grocery store, or like
Yeah.
hold the door open for a little old lady and whatever. And the more that I did that, it was like,
Feel good inside.
yeah, it was just like, oh man, this feels good. And I started to like attract more and better things. And I wanted to be better, but it was still a few years later before I really started to take care of myself and my own health journey. But yeah, that definitely started like the manifestation process, that's for sure.
Awesome. You mentioned something really powerful. You said noticing the signs. Do you remember the
Mhm.
first sign that you were consciously aware of that you say, hey, this actually makes sense?
Yeah, I do. And it's I'm really glad that you asked that, because I wanted to kind of lead into the story,
All
but
right.
yeah,
Awesome.
I appreciate you asking that.
You're welcome.
So that day that I went and saw that energy healer, I was playing the practice round for the Ullman's golf tournament. And I'd played in that golf tournament for a few years and I'd never won it. And I was starting to like second guess myself. I'm like, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, right? And it's kind of it's a social, it's a party, there's lots of drinking, there's lots of fun, but it always meant the most to me. Like, it was a old golf tournament. I grew up around it and it was really special to me. So not winning it was like, that was hard, right?
At least
So
once.
anyways,
Yeah.
I go to the practice round, and I told these guys, like some like, big old patch buddies of mine, and I'm telling them about this appointment, and they're like, are you sure? Like, okay, man, like, right. But we get to the 8th hole, and I remember, I can close my eyes and I can see it. My ball is in the long grass, and right beside it there's a little burrowed nest about this big, and it looks like the picture of a hurricane, on a
Whoa.
map. And I look inside there, and there's 3 robin's eggs, and I'm
Three
like,
what? Sorry. Three what?
3 robin's eggs, like a
Oh,
bird,
wow.
like a robin.
Okay.
And there was 3 eggs in there, and I looked down and I'm like, that's weird. I've never seen that before. So I called my friend over, and I said, hey, have you ever seen that before? He's like, no, that's amazing. That's really cool. And I
You pick
said,
him up?
yeah, no. I said, well, I was told to start seeing the signs, and this must mean I'm going to make a birdie, right?
Oh, wow.
So anyways, for those that don't know what a birdie is, it's one under par, which is par is what you should shoot on a hole technically. And
That's amazing. Wow.
so I grabbed my club and I hit my ball up in the air, and it goes up, and I'm like, geez, that looks pretty good. And it goes bang, this far from the hole. And I was like, holy shit. I look over at my friend and he's just like, what the hell, dude? And I'm like, you know what? I said, I think you're gonna make one too. And he's like, I'm not the player that you are, or whatever. So he grabs his club and goes over and hits his ball up. And I'm like, man, that looks pretty good. Bang! Lands right beside my ball.
Oh,
And
wow.
he was literally like stunned. Our entire group was stunned. And after that, it was just like, it was it was amazing. So I just, I started noticing more and more, and just being kind of tapping into like, if something just kind of felt coincidental or out of the ordinary, or if like I saw an animal or a bird, or something different was happening, just tapping into like what that felt in that moment. And it just started to get stronger and stronger.
How did you feel in that moment when you see you and your buddy getting amazing shots?
It was that validation. I'm like, there is something to this. And I was a non-believer for so long. It was just like, it felt so good inside just to be like, you know what, there's more. There's more
Totally.
to life than just what's on the surface. And as kind of nerve-wracking as it was to think of, like, I couldn't explain it, it was so exciting.
Oh, wow. Amazing. And then you started seeing more and more of those signs, I guess.
Yeah, so like to kind of to lead into that too, the next day I was playing in a match, and it was a match play tournament where you play one-on-one ahead against each other. There's 304 players in this, so it's a big tournament, right? And I wasn't playing so solid, and I was down in my match, and I just won the last hole to go down by one. And I looked up above the hole, and there was an eagle literally doing circles around above the
Whoa.
flag, right above the flag. And I looked at the group and I said, hey, is that an eagle right there? And they're like, yeah, I've never seen an eagle out here before. This is crazy. I'm like, I know, right? And in that moment, I was like, I got this.
Oh,
Well, I
wow.
made birdie on that hole, and I won the next hole and the next hole. And I continued to roll on and win that turn. I won the tournament for the first time, and it was super emotional experience for me. But Payman, I won that tournament 5 years in a row.
Oh,
That
wow.
that had never
Champion.
it had never been done before. And
Wow.
it was so
Fantastic.
special to me. And I think probably the biggest takeaway that I have of that is I won it, and then I won it again. But there was people, because I treated everybody the way that I would want to be treated, um, including my competitors. Everyone was still cheering for me to win, and that felt really good, um, because there was I know what it's like, that where people are not cheering for others to win because of whatever it makes them feel. But to have that support, it was a powerful feeling too.
You winning this tournament five years in a row. How did that translate into your self confidence and your work and other aspect of your life?
Mm. And that's a really good question, because that it led into everything, right? It was like after that moment, I started to look after my health, and like I was smoking cigarettes, and I just threw the package away. And I'm like,
Beautiful.
in that, I'd tried quitting before, but I knew that was the last time I ever did it. And I knew that the only time that I ever really felt like not smoking is when I was running to train for a 10K that I ran with my dad, because right after he had a heart attack, he had come back and started to take care of himself as well. So I started running, and the more that I
Wow.
ran, the better I felt. And then I started getting up in the morning, 5 a.m. and running, and running the trails, and seeing the sunrise, and smelling the smells, and hearing, actually hearing songs that I'd listened to before, but I'd never really heard. And I'm like, man, these are touching me on the inside more than I've ever felt before. And again, just started to notice signs, and, realizing that there was more to life than what I was living and how I was living it, and the relationship that I was in, and the job that I was in, and all of that. So that's where, that's kind of like what that led into. So, yeah.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Listen, we can talk for hours. We talk for an hour now, but let's push forward. Let's talk now about your business. Tell us what are you up to? What are you doing now, and the impact you're having in the world?
Yeah, this going through my separation and divorce, and through the trials and tribulations of like changing jobs and stuff like that, I realized that having real conversations with people about the struggles that I was having, that they're not had, right. And there was, I didn't know of anyone like a men's supporter or anything that that I could talk to in those times. So when I had those conversations, I was like, I felt like I had healed something within me to be able to share and to be able to listen to someone else and have each other hold each other's space and relate. There was a connection and like a level of healing that goes with that I didn't even know how to explain. So that's what I wanted to do. And I created my first men's group on Facebook, and just said, if you're interested in having a real conversation and not just the surface level talk about the weather, politics, or whatever comes up, um, this is open to you, and this is real, and this is what life is all about. So that was how my mission got started. And the more that I started to connect with people, the more that I healed myself, understood myself, like where my reactions and responses and my fears and my anxieties and my anger and resentment, where that all came from, so that I could look into it and lean into it and work with other coaches and mentors and healers to get through that. So that was kind of the beginning of my mission.
That's amazing. I've been blessed to have over 110. I think this will be number 116, 117 episode. But I've
Mm,
had quite a couple of guys that are also working with men. I can connect you with them if you want. They help men. They're based in the US, but still work in the same sphere of helping the men, you know,
absolutely.
having, talk about men issue and all that. So I'll definitely connect you with them. One of them is an actual doctor, very high level guy, very educated, but also very, in tune and understands the needs of man. And that's what he's, and all that. So I'll connect you with them after. But
Absolutely.
that's amazing. Wow. So how long have you been doing that now?
So I left my corporate job um, last November. November the
Oh
7th
wow.
was my last day. And I'd left the oil and gas industry to go into the road maintenance industry, and work for like a large corporate company that they said all the right things. And I even, I said, this is who I am now. This is how I'm going to lead. It was people first, integrity, excellence, respect were their four foundations. But, in a lot of ways, the corporate business, as doesn't allow us to live in true authenticity of all of those foundations. So, I wasn't living in true integrity with what I believed, and what that was saying, which was okay. It wasn't in my heart, so I left. And I was introduced to the Sacred Sons, and my
Oh,
partner Kelly found the Sacred Sons on Instagram, and I started following them, and that's been a game changer for me. I took the leadership facilitator training through them, so I lead online circles through the Sacred Sons of the North, which is a northern brothership. Um, they have events all over the US, and going to be having some in Canada, which is going to be coming up next year. And then I got into facilitating men's work and retreats myself with some other brothers, and that's been so powerful. And one thing that connects with me in Lance is there's nothing like having a support system, whether it's your family, whether it's your partner, the people closest to you in your life. But when you have men supporting other men and holding space, and it, it makes me emotional thinking about it. There's absolutely nothing like that, because we've never had it before.
no,
It's
exactly.
never been shown that it's okay, that it's safe for us to hold space for each other and not judge and not compare and not compete. It's so powerful. Like it's completely unexplainable. And those that haven't been a part of a men's group or an online men's circle, even, man, do it. Do it for you. Do it for your family. Like it will change your life. And that is a 100% guarantee.
Sounds amazing. I'll actually be very interested myself to be part of such a group, because that's what this camaraderie that you miss, that you get. There's a different kind of bond you can get with a man, especially a man that has the same values, the same vision as you.
Mhm.
That's absolutely nothing else can match. So yeah, send me more information. I'd love to have a look. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I will for sure. And you know what, like the thing that comes up with that is like, our stories are different. Your
totally.
story is completely different than mine. And it doesn't to say that yours is harder or easier than mine. There's no such thing. But our emotions, the way that we feel, all of that is the same.
Mhm.
The everything that we feel is the same, and we can relate on that, right? You may have had way more loss in your life than I have, but my loss might be just different. The feeling's the same. It may not look as hard or as terrible on the outside, but it still doesn't mean that it doesn't affect me the same, right? So that's something that comes through there. And a lot of these groups, I've been to them where I don't even say anything. I just listen. And having those other guys share their stories, it's like they're sharing my story, and I'm benefiting from that. So it's powerful. And that's why, I started my own mentor prior to meeting the Sacred Sons, but going through the leadership training too, they can just help their outreach is so much larger. I was like, you know what? I want to give back, and I want to support and do that, to be of service for them. But also I have my Warriors of the Heart men's group for my coaching clients, as well as my Facebook and Instagram pages, where I post a lot of, my own insights and things that I've learned, and the things that I've been through as well, for those that connect with me and my story.
Amazing. Wow. So in your program, do you have a program yet, or you're building it?
So right now I've been just building, I'm building a course, and not a course, but a program right now, a group program, for guys that feel like they have everything that's meant to be successful and happy, but it's not adding up, and they still feel empty. So I'm working on that right now. Lately, up till now, I've been working one-on-one with guys. I want to truly connect and show them that it's safe, to talk in front of other people is hard in the best of times, let alone when you're talking about yourself and what you're struggling with. So that's something that I do believe needs to be fostered, and that's what I want to do. So I want to connect with as many guys as possible, men, that that are looking for a place, a safe space, and that's me. And just to allow them to feel what that's like, because it's there's really nothing like it.
Do you have a specific avatar for the ideal man that you can serve and help at the highest level?
Hmm. The simplest explanation is it's me. I had everything that was meant to be successful and happy, and it wasn't. I had the marriage, the kids, the car, like I said, all of the things, the outside
Those things,
sources,
yeah.
but I didn't know who I was inside. I didn't even know who I wanted. My partner Kelly one time asked me, she's like, Kevin, what are your dreams? And I broke down. I'm like,
Powerful question.
I said, nobody's ever asked me that.
Yeah.
you know so to not know that was scary, because I'm like, at the end of my life, what am what am I gonna what are my thoughts gonna be, what are my regrets gonna be? And that was a powerful realization. So that's what the question that I ask everybody, like, at the end of your life, what do you wish that you would have done? So let's do that, and let's make it happen.
Love this question.
Right. so
Absolutely.
so yeah, my avatar is the one, that that feels alone. It's a lonely space at the top, and I was a leader in my business, but I wasn't a leader in my own life. And I want to help men be the leaders in their own lives, the ones that they want to be, and embody that.
Amazing. That's so powerful. Actually, I'm going to write this down because that's such a powerful question. So you said, what do you wish? So at the end of your life, what was it again? At the end of your life,
At the end of your life, what do you wish that you would have done? What regrets do you have? And if you've put yourself in that position right now, what do you wish that you would have done? Well, let's rewrite that script and be like, you know what? I'm so effing proud that I did that, because I could have just like let it slide. And for me, I do believe that we live more lives after this. And the last thing that I want to do is take my regrets and the things that I haven't healed with me to the next one.
So glad that I'm recording this, even though I took notes. I will be rewatching this and transcribing this verbatim because that's pure gold. Thank you for sharing that. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a
Pleasure.
pleasure.
Now, moving forward, the theme of this podcast is cause. What would you say is the cause that you're most passionate about?
I would say for me is not passing all of our learnings and lessons and what was taught to us, the negatives, onto our kids. There's a next generation that's coming up behind us, and if what hurts me, I allow that to keep happening and pass it on to my kids, what good is that going to benefit them? Instead of like doing the work and finding out and identifying who I am and who I want to be in my heart, and making sure that I'm honoring that, and then honoring them as well. So what I see is like youth mentorship and healing this generation, so that we're not passing it on to the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one.
Love that. Love that. Especially now you're working with men. You're gonna spread that message to them. It's gonna create like a ripple effect around the world. That's lovely. That's amazing. I'm so glad that I have you on a podcast to share that beautiful message to the world. And as I told you, you need to get your podcast because that's a beautiful message. It's one thing to get on other people's, platforms, but nothing beats having your platform.
Absolutely.
Especially when you have such a powerful message. Because at the end of it, it's all about impact. Wow, that's powerful.
No, and I appreciate you having me on. This is my first one, and it's been an honor.
You're one of the easiest guests to talk to because you're so genuine. You speak, the words are coming from your mouth, but I can feel that they're coming straight from your heart. And that's why I love talking to you. We're having a heart-to-heart conversation. This is so beautiful that your message is really authentic, and it's going to touch a lot of people, because it's not just about touching people, but touching them at the right time. And right now, I think it's the best time, because a lot of people are, as horrible as the pandemic has been, it's also served as a blessing. This guy's awakening. A lot of people are reflecting on what really matters. And right now, a lot of people are quitting their jobs or downsizing their lifestyle, because nobody needs, 2 to 3 hour commuting each day. Nobody needs $4,000 or $5,000 month mortgage or whatever. People are focusing more on what really matters: your health, your time, your family, your relationships, and everything else is secondary. So this is the perfect time for you to step in as a leader and just spread your message to the world, to your audience.
Totally. And something that Kelly and I talk about, and I talk about as well, is when it's the truth, it's easy. Sometimes it hurts to say and it hurts to hear, but when you're speaking it flows because it's the truth.
You don't need any preparation, you don't need any script, and
you don't need to remember it, right?
Exactly. That's beautiful. Listen, let's wrap this up, Kevin, because otherwise it's gonna turn like a Joe Rogan style 3 hour, 4 hour. I don't mind it. I love it, but I have another call in an half an hour. So anyways, let's finish with me asking you a series of rapid fire questions on advices. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. So what would you say has been the best piece of advice you've received so far?
Follow your heart.
Love that. What would you say has been the worst piece of advice you've received so far?
Just suck it up and keep working.
Be a man.
Be a man. Yeah. What
does that mean? Right thing. Yeah, exactly. Right. Wow. Now, this is something that's going to really be, relatable to you now. Imagine that you have a time machine. You can go back in time and sit face to face with the 18-year-old Kevin. Knowing all that you know now, what will be the number one advice you will give to him? And that's something you're probably going to do now, sitting with your son and your kids. So, what is the number one piece of advice you will give first to you and then to them? Don't think too much. What is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Yeah, I've thought about that and I've asked it a lot. And I said, you know what? Take as much money as you can get, whether it's 20 grand, 30 grand, whatever, and go travel and spend it on what you want to do. Find out who you really are. Go see all of the major things in the world and learn from that, because you're going to learn more than that. You're going to from that than you are by sitting in a classroom or learning from a book. And Payman, you're a traveler. Kelly, my partner's a traveler. That's my biggest regret, is that I just didn't, have the balls, so to speak, to just, put myself into $20,000 worth of debt. That's nothing. It's nothing.
In the grand scheme of things. No.
Yeah. I made it in 1 month. So yeah, that's one that I would easily take a time machine and go and do that. And tell anybody at that age to do that as well.
And just to use your line on yourself, I'm not using them, but just to use it as inspiration, that's one thing that you wish you would have done. So now you can easily rewrite that script and do it as soon. I mean, you can still travel nowadays, but it's a bit of a pain. So and I'm hopeful that in the spring of summer of next year, things are going to ease out, and then just go with your traveling with your kids, because
it's only a matter of time.
The best gift for kids is travel, because it's the best form of education. Travel and sports, for me, are the two best schools of life.
100%. And my kids now, we don't even buy them hardly anything for Christmas. We're do experiences with them. So
beautiful.
This year we're going to take them to the ski hill and go skiing.
Amazing.
And spend time with them. So that's something that means the most to me.
Awesome. Final question on advices. Now, I know you don't have your podcast yet, but imagine you have your podcast, very successful, and today you have the most amazing guest, which is you're interviewing yourself. What's the first question you want to ask yourself? Again, don't think too much. What is the first question that comes to your mind?
I'm going to say, who are you? Who is Kevin McNee? And are you living and embodying him?
Now, what's your answer to that second part of your question? Are you embedding him now?
You know what? I'm going to say I'm definitely doing the work, and I feel more embodied this week than I have in my entire life. And it's like I've shed a layer of skin, and it's raw and it's hard, and it's kind of scary and unknown.
Hurts,
but
yes,
man, does it ever feel fucking good?
Absolutely. The last question is the one question I love. My favorite question to ask is, what is the smallest thing you've done that has had the biggest positive impact in your life? For me, it's been starting a podcast. When I say small, I don't look at it as small, but the one thing you've done that has had the biggest positive impact so far on both your life and your business.
I would say having a real conversation, saying I'm feeling like this and it's not very good. And I just wanted you to know, and, getting that out, it was, that's the most powerful thing that I've ever did. And it doesn't even, seem that big.
Love that. Amazing. Now, and then I want to ask you just one question, and I want you to be very direct, very straight, very honest. Give me tough love. Don't try to be nice or friendly. Do you have any tips for me on how I can improve my podcast?
You know what? I've been listening to podcasts for a long time, and I guess for me, there's nothing that comes through. You're so sincere and genuine, Payman, and we've only had one conversation before this, and I do feel like we're brothers for life, and that's an important part. So I would say, there's nothing that I can touch on. You talk a heck of a lot faster than me, so I have to really be.
I know I need to slow down, buddy.
maybe just slow down. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Awesome. So now, Kevin, if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram, as well as LinkedIn. So it's Kevin McNee is my name, McNee, and it's Warrior of the Heart. If you look up Warrior of the Heart, or Warriors of the Heart is my men's group. Heart Warriors Coaching on Instagram. So
all right, I'll put all that good stuff in the show notes. So listen, Kevin, it's been an absolute blast and honor, a pleasure talking to you. You're one of the most realist guests and men I've had the pleasure and honor of talking over the past year and a half on my podcast. Keep shining your light, keep blessing the world with your presence, with your impact, and with your message, with mission. Stay safe, stay awesome. God bless, brother. We'll definitely stay in touch. We are in touch, and we'll catch you soon. Take care, brother.
Thank you, brother. I love you.
Take care. Same here. Cheers.